Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As you may have heard, nothing happens in business unless you sell something. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is a company we built called Salesfuse, the say to sell platform. When you look at selling today, there are a lot of variables, a lot of factors at play. Most buyers do not want to hear from salespeople. They don't care about the company they represent. And sales is quite complicated today. There are a lot of variables, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of content. What do I say to get access to executives? What do I say in that first meeting? What do I say on email? What do I say on LinkedIn? What do I say on my social platforms? And there are CRM tools, there are listening tools, there are tools to help me with sales enablement, there are tools that help me answer incoming requests, and there are tools that help me do my job. All of those tools are predicated on the ability to actually talk to humans. And yet there's nothing for salespeople to do that, to get what they need to say, to sell. Sure, there's a lot of content on what to do, and sure, there's a lot of skills training on how to do it. But salespeople are under immense burden today in a highly complicated world of the products that they represent. What do I say, and how do I say it? In fact, Accenture says most salespeople spend only a third of their time actually talking to customers. That's because of this complexity. They need a value and coding platform that helps them figure out how to talk more effectively, how to communicate more efficiently, and how to differentiate themselves. When I say value and coding, I mean human intelligence about the brand, blended together with artificial intelligence through a series of workflows that bring together not only the content, but how to say it. Here's a simple interface. Following through the workflow, we can understand customer pain points, what value messages they need to have, what things we need to say in order to sell. When we do that, we're not only able to bring together content from internal through collaboration and feedback from product and marketing and sales teams, but we're actually able to convert that into templates and assets and tools that salespeople need to communicate value. When you look at that, a salesperson today has to go through all that content and all those tools to figure out what is relevant to my customers. That's on the backs of salespeople. There's 25 to 30 different elements that make them unique in how they sell. And what that means is, when they're trying to figure this out, there's millions and millions of permutations in order to actually sell something. Without something that takes that broad-based approach into something specific, salespeople have a lot of cognitive load. They have to switch between different buyers, different altitude levels, different types of people, and they need help to do that. They need a helper that helps them pull that off. In order to take action and actually engage, most salespeople today have to spend a lot of their time, many hours, many minutes, driving that conversation and figuring out what to say. When they're able to do that, they're able to differentiate, they're able to build their pipeline, they're actually able to spend more time interfacing with customers and talking about what matters most to them. Now, obviously, this is a competitive market, but nobody's really focused in on the ingredients that salespeople need and what to say, nor are they focused on delivering those ingredients in a usable way in the workflows that salespeople appreciate, which is around how they communicate value. When you look at companies like Salesforce and Adobe, multi-billion-dollar companies, they're looking to blend this idea of human intelligence with artificial intelligence, but they can't figure that out because they're organized by product. When you look at the TAM and the SAM here, it's massive, absolutely massive. We've taken this down to just sales and marketing engagement tools, looking at how salespeople engage their customers and focused in on that. When you look at this, it's very capturable from a efficiency and productivity perspective. We use a tiered pricing model where people can buy and engage in what we call these collectors about events, industries, roles, etc., and then convert that into action. Our sales and marketing plan is built on Salesfuse. We're actually using it today to differentiate ourselves and fill the pipeline. 7 days ago, we went public with our first actionable effort to acquire customers. We've had 50 people in companies like Elasticsearch use this tool, and they believe it's a differentiator. Our team is world-class from companies like HP and Oracle. These have been sales leaders that have built international sales teams. They're involved on a day-to-day basis to help us figure out how we make this conversation happen between buyers and sellers. The hybrid platform itself is built in a microservices architecture, which basically means our vision is to hook Salesfuse into every single sales engagement platform in the world to fuel the conversations that salespeople need to have, which they're simply not able to do right now. Our advisors include teams from marketing, from product, from sales. We bring that all together in order to help them be successful in how they communicate. When you look at pulling this up together in a unique and variable way, the next slide isn't working. Can you hit the next slide for me, please? It's stuck. All right, so I'll tell you what the slide says. There's our milestones include launching the MVP and a SaaS throughout all last year. We actually have had 50 beta users from 5 different companies. You'll also see that this is our help desk and our support. We've already built that. It's manned on an 8 to 5 basis. Our vision is to actually build a say-to-sell ecosystem of tools that pull together the ingredients that salespeople need in order to bring this into a modernized view of the interconnected world of selling in a digital economy. Our ask is for $500,000 for 10% of the company, preferably through safe notes, but we're definitely open to any other rounds of funding or any ideas. Then we're looking for strategic investors. We'll use that money to continue the product view and also the sales and marketing efforts. And that's Salesfuse today. What questions do you have? Thanks for your time.
All right, well, it's always hard to go first, so thanks for doing that. I think the number one feedback I would say is you hit every major point, generally speaking, that I want to see in a pitch, so you've done a good job in ensuring there. I'd say maybe the only thing I'm missing is a really concrete, like, why this needs to exist now, like what's happened in the world or in technology or what in order to say this is the time for this thing to catch on. But otherwise, I create a checklist here and you got a check mark and every other thing. That said, I would say one of the things you always want to do is realize that as an investor, I'm much stupider than you in terms of your discipline. So I would say I still don't quite understand what you do for a salesperson. Like, so give me the like really simple problem that you solve.
The problem is salespeople have millions of petabytes of data and a lot of advice from people. They don't know how to synthesize that into who they're talking to when they're talking to them. It's all on the burden of salesperson. So all of the truckloads of help that the company provides isn't aligned to the conversation that salespeople need to have.
So if I understand correctly, I'm a salesperson. I've got my queue of people that I need to talk to today. When I am about to engage, this is sort of a single source of truth that immediately enables me to have a really intelligent conversation on a customer by customer basis by tapping into all of the different sources of information that I may have to present to them. Is that a pretty fair?
Yes, and not only that, but if you're talking to a CIO at 10 o'clock, a CTO at 10:30, a CFO at 11, you need to switch roles. And most salespeople cannot do that because it's product, 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 product. It's about our company, our company, our company, and ourselves, not about the person that they're engaging with. So that switching between roles, who do I talk to, what drives them, what's going on in the industry. Salespeople think by conversation with humans, individual roles, and the industry that they're in, those people are in. They have to take this outside-in perspective, go back into their company, which is all built around product, and translate that whole thing into why it matters. And that's the biggest problem with salespeople today is they don't have the ability to do that because the company simply isn't organized by how people buy. The company is organized by the product that nobody cares about, to be honest with you. They want to know what the value is. Just like you're asking me about the value, that's a great question. Salespeople have to be able to do that. So not only does it take all the information, it actually creates templates, scripts, LinkedIn messages, social messages to create not only a moment in time where I have to have one conversation with you, but research says you need to navigate 8 to 10 decision makers. What's that story over time? About you, not about me. Why should we talk? So that's really the power of Salesfuse, is to create an orchestrated view of a value-based message throughout the exchange of value, which could take many, many touch points, 50 to 60 days. And everybody's focused on one moment in time. Like, how do I talk to a CFO right now? Well, what are you going to do for the other 15 messages where they don't care about you? And that's a massive gap.
Great. So I just say, just my last one, I'll let Dan jump in. So I love, a pitch for me, I love a story to be told. I like to put myself in the seat of the person who's going to use this product or consume this product. I want to feel the pain that they're experiencing right in that moment. Your explanation right now, I'd say I get it a lot better than I did in the pitch. So I think there's an opportunity here to recraft. One of the challenges, everyone who pitches is generally a massive subject matter expert in what they're doing. They generally expect that I've either sat in that seat or I understand what's going to happen. One of the things that I've found that's so easy in here is just speak to me from that vantage point of help put me in that seat, help me immerse in this idea that now I'm a salesperson. And these are the things these are the tools I've been given and where they kind of fall short. And these are the expectations that I have and the challenges I have to do and how inefficient that is. And then bring it all together with and lo and behold, thank God there's Salesfuse, right? Because now we can make it work. So I think just one of those, it's clear that the value proposition's there and it's easily understood. I think tell it from that first person kind of story and help me immerse in the end user, and that'll help me kind of get there a little faster.
Amazing. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate that.
So Brian, I want to start out with saying that there were several things that I really liked that you did, right? And I think this is really important for everybody when you're pitching, right? Is be succinct to focus people up front on what you're doing, so that nothing happens in business unless you bought something. That was good because it focused my attention on what you were going to talk about, right? Your problem definition piece, right? It was around how do you sell, right? And turn that into a conversation and give you the tools to make that. So you're simplifying the message. And as Chris said, investors are pretty dumb. So you really need to dumb it down for them. So that was good. The one place where you kind of lost me until you explained it after your presentation is this idea of a value encoding platform. And that phrase is very meaningful to you, and it confused me during your pitch. Because now I know what it means, but as you were walking through it, I was left sitting there thinking, okay, well, how are you doing that? What's happening? And so I probably distracted me more than focused me. I think to Chris's point, what's the value, right? What's the value you're creating here? And I'm actually your target audience because I do manage a biz dev and sales team, right? And I know that getting them to be able to do this and turn a sales process into a conversation with some intelligence is difficult. But if you had said in the beginning, I'm going to take your existing sales and biz dev team and make them more effective, right? Then that's great. And then the question is, well, okay, how do you do that, right? And I did like your, we always like our magic quadrant, right, of competition and where do you fit, but because there are a lot of tools, right? There are a lot of lead generation tools. There's Sales Navigator on LinkedIn. There's all the CRMs, and again, you addressed that a little bit, but I think if you keep the message here, we turn that sales process into a conversation. And then I think the other thing is, investors are looking at AI-enabled tools that can actually scale, right? And so probably a little more around how that works, what you're actually doing would have been helpful. And then the other thing that I'll add, and then this is, if you go back and look, this is usually the first thing I say. When you're doing specifically an investor pitch, don't bury your team slide. You buried your team slide towards the end. Sure. Because there are three things that investors are going to focus on first before anything else, and it's team, team, and team. Sure. So I would spend a little more time on that, especially if it's a real investor pitch, because they're going to care a lot more about that, and they'll give you a lot of latitude. If they buy into you as a team, then they'll give you a lot of latitude on not hitting some of these other points.
It's great. Thank you so much.
I do have a question so that you can actually respond. And it gets around to this value encoding and fuels the conversation. It was a little bit more of how do you do that?
The non-technical answer is the collaborative nature of Salesfuse. You have people in product, marketing, sales enablement that contribute to the platform. That's a lot of information. It's very structured through our workflow process. That structure then becomes ingredients that salespeople can use actually in the messages. So they're getting inputs that they need to have the conversations. We augment that with ChatGPT. When you look at a CIO, if I ask anybody in the audience right now, what's the top 10 issues facing a CIO today? That gap is perfect for ChatGPT because you can ask it and it will tell you what it thinks. Now you have not a blank sheet of paper, you have a helper on your shoulder giving you tips on what CIOs are dealing with. That then becomes sound bites in the messages that you create. The templates that we built, over 100 templates, then get populated with those ingredients. So AI is also then used in the final step to rewrite the email, to say, hey, I need this to be more executive sounding. I need this to be shorter. It's used also in the final step. But again, you're not just going to a blank screen saying, write me an email for a CIO, which is going to sound just like everybody else. You need to be powered by your brand, your value proposition, and who you're talking to. And that's what it brings together. Thank you so much.
Give it up for Brian.